Hello, my loves, and welcome to another episode of FEMPIRE Builders. Your host here, Michelle Hext. Let me set the scene for you. It is Monday morning. It is the first Monday of December, the second day of summer. I'm looking outside. The sky is blue. There's not a breath of wind in the air. It's just, oh, so much to feel grateful for this morning. And Monday mornings, my most favorite thing to do is come into my office and record this podcast. Podcasting is one of my favorite things. I've actually got a podcast interview on Thursday, an in-person one where I need to drive into the city and record a podcast. And I'm excited for that. I am ready to pick up my guest podcasting banner again and get moving. I've got my intern creating a system for getting me on high ticket, or not high ticket, but getting me on other people's podcasts again. It's so exciting. It's a system that I've used before and has worked so well. And I'm excited to build it and be able to give my masterminders access to the exact same system that I'm going to be using. Anyway, enough about that. I'm also hoping you can't hear the noise that's going on across the road. I think they're chopping down a tree, but where I live, it's in a seaside suburb, and it is filled with those beautiful old school blocks of land. And I am on one of them. We have a quarter acre, have a massive front yard, a massive nature strip, a massive backyard, and I'm like 300 meters from the beach. And that's wonderful. The only thing is, there's so much construction that's going on. And in our street, there's been so much where people have passed on and their families are selling their old homes. And of course, it's a green light for subdivision and building townhouses and stuff like that. So I don't love that part. And I cry pretty much every time somebody gets rid of their old home. You know, some of these old homes are so beautiful and I just wish they could stay. Anyway, enough about that. That's 2 minutes and 30 seconds of me just babbling on. So what I want to talk to you about today is December. We are in December, and December is a magical month for me. I remember years ago making the decision that December was going to be my most profitable month of the entire year. And that has been the case for many years. It's just an intention I set when everybody else is saying that, you know, December is a quiet month and all that stuff. I don't see it that way. And I think that's because there are a lot of people like me who in December, well, for me in November, I start planning, really pulling together my plan for the following year. And in December, I get to sit in that. I see December as a month of suspension. So we're not paused exactly, but in November, it's like, okay, this is the strategy I'm going with. This is what I want to be doing for 2025. It's all there. And then in December, I get to, build out those projects. I get to be creating whatever I need to create, but I also have time up my sleeve to be able to sit and think, okay, so I made those plans in November and, next month it's go time. So what's going to happen in December? What can I think about? And one of the things that I do think about in December are, well, I just check in that everything feels aligned, everything feels practical, everything feels simple, everything feels elevated. And I know I'm going into 2025 with a strategy that I can fully back, because like most of you, I don't want to be wasting time and energy playing around and testing and measuring things. 2024 has been a big year of testing and measuring and trying different things. And I feel really good about what I'm going to be going forward with in 2025. It feels amazing. So my intention for 2025 is no more test and measure. Like, I know what I need to be doing. So it's going to be growth time. And so December gives me pause to be able to think about, okay, so what else can I remove? How can I simplify things even further? Because I want to go into 2025, as I say, not testing and measuring. I don't want to be doing that. I want to be going into that year with full commitment to the things or to the decisions that I've made. And some questions that I'm asking myself about in December, or that I'm asking myself in December, are things like, so in 2025, what do I need to stop doing? And I just write a list, an exhaustive list of all the things that I want to stop doing in 2025. Things that I did in 2024 that I am not going to be doing in 2025. And of course, one of those things is testing and measuring. I'm not going to be doing that in 2025. So I'm going to stop doing that. I feel really good about what I'm moving forward with. And then there are going to be things like, what do I need to start doing in 2025? What are the things that are going to be different? What are the new things that I'm going to be doing? What are the things that maybe I've been doing in the past, but now want to add a whole other layer of commitment to and really step it up? Because that is going to be the foundation of my activity in 2025. And, I've been speaking recently about a 12-hour work week or a 10-hour work week or less. And I have really loved that. And I've gotten to see just how potent I can be working in such a small amount of time. I'm still fiddling around with the strategy and the structure around the structure of it. So I'm calling the work blocks, I'm giving them different times, different categories. So I have CEO time, I have marketing time, I have mentoring time. And I'm really playing around with, do I want to do one day where it's all just CEO stuff, where I don't do any creation, where I don't do any marketing, where I really just lean into, you know, putting my hat on as a CEO and looking at my company from a bird's eye perspective and figuring out, what needs to be figured out with that hat on and under that view, with the view of being the CEO of this company, looking out at the horizon of a new year and what is that going to be about. So I'm playing around with, as I say, the structure of it. And sometimes my CEO hours are going to be higher because I'm having conversations, I'm handing over projects to my intern, things like that. So sometimes those hours are going to be higher and then they're going to be lower, right? And so I'm giving myself a little bit more freedom. So what I guess I'm saying is, if I were to say, for example, Monday is marketing day or Monday is content creation day, I might do 4 or 5 hours on that day. But then maybe on the Tuesday, it'll be CEO day, and some days it'll be an hour where I'm just learning about something. And other days it might be 2 hours or 4 hours. And just letting whatever needs to be done in that time, but being really mindful of the fact that the more I do, the less potent things are. And so I feel like I'm finding a really good balance with that. I'm actually really excited to see where that sits at the end of next year or this time next year. Like what did that bring about? What changes did that bring about? What outcomes did that produce? Because I get excited about things over the long haul, right? We can all do things for a minute, but being disciplined to do something over time, and 1 year is a good amount of time, that's when we produce our biggest results. We can create quick wins. There's no doubt about that. We can create hard and fast results, but I'm really more interested in sustained success over time. I'm more interested in what do we get to do over a year as opposed to what do we get to do over, 4 weeks, for example, because lasting foundational success takes time. So in December, I want you to start to put a bow on 2024 and start to really think about living in 2025 now. So you don't need to wait until the calendar ticks over to start doing things in a new way, to start creating something. For me, December is probably my busiest month because I'm looking at the end of the year and I'm like, oh crap, there's a lot of stuff I haven't got done. And I don't want to end the year with that stuff undone or incomplete. I always want to, honor my commitments to myself. And, most years, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit behind because I do spend a lot of November in reflection. And so I want you to think about this month. What decisions need to be made. Now, remember that when we make a decision, that is to cut off the flip-flopping. That is to go into something with an unwavering commitment. We have to back decisions with unwavering commitment, regardless of what outcomes we're seeing in the short term, right? So, what decisions need to be made in this month that are going to set you up beautifully for 2025? And if we ask ourselves the question, what decisions do I need to make around what I need to stop doing right now so that I don't take that into 2025 with me? And then we're going to be thinking as well about, what decisions do I need to start to make to go forward in a new way, cutting off any idea that it's not, that you're going to flip flop over that. So one of the decisions that I made a couple of months ago was to go all in on my Instagram. And I wrote about this in my email last week. And I think I might have even put it on my Facebook profile. It was too long for Instagram, but yeah, I can't remember exactly what I did with the content. It's irrelevant. Uh, and I'm actually just having a thought as I do it. I'm thinking, well, if I'm going all on in Instagram, then shouldn't I be creating content with the express purpose of it being able to fit on Instagram if that's the plan? So anyway, I had this realization, I guess, last month where I was thinking, you're full of crap. Like, you said you were going to go all in on Instagram, but you're still running your ads to Facebook and Instagram. You're still hedging your bets. You still got, 1 foot in Instagram and 1 foot in Facebook just in case. And it's like the definition of all in is that it's all in. There's not, well, just in case. Because when you've got a plan B, it just dilutes everything, right? So my focus has been on potency, as you can tell, and I'll say the word potent so many times, but it's like, just think about it. If I'm saying I'm going all in on Instagram, then why would I live stream on my Facebook profile? If I say I'm going all in on my Instagram, then why would I run ads to Facebook? And so it's being really honest with myself about, well, have you really gone all in? I'm like, no, I haven't. And my content has not been that purposeful. It hasn't been that intentional because I am still kind of hedging my bets a little bit with the other platforms. And, you might argue, well, it's smart to have these different platforms because, some people are on Facebook. And I agree that that's one rule of thought and you have to make your own decisions around that. But my rule of thinking around this is that if I give my full attention to one social media platform, then isn't that going to be more potent and intentional than doing it on two? It's just something energetic about it. So for 2025, this podcast is a priority. My Instagram is a priority. My YouTube channel will be another priority. So they're the three main areas for my business. And of course, running ads to Instagram. And so one of the other strategies that I'm using going forward in 2025, as I said, is I want we've got a pitch kit and a speaker reel, but for my guest appearances. So we've got a lot of bits and pieces that are there that need to be pulled together. So my intern is going to create my pitch deck. It's not really a deck. I think it's going to be on a page. We might do a PDF and a page. We're still playing around with it, but it's coming together. And so one of her tasks is every week she's going to be pitching me to podcasts, and we've got a really amazing list set up, ready to go. And so that's going to be one of her jobs. So podcasting, it's still the same, right? But I love being a guest on other people's podcasts for two reasons. One, I think I do my best work when people are asking me questions and I get to answer. And if they ask really good questions, then the answers are, so valuable to their audience. And the second reason is that I get to be exposed to their audience. And I also get to promote whatever it is that I want to promote, whether it's my podcast, whether it's FEMPIRE Builders, whatever it is. And so podcasting is definitely one of my big strategies for 2025. And as I sit here thinking about that, in FEMPIRE Builders later this month, I'm running a workshop on Instagram, and it's about the different settings that we need to change. And I've been studying a lot on on Instagram and digging deep. And I'm looking at these changes in my settings that I've been making, and it's starting to make a difference. So I'm going to be sharing that. But I'm also going to be sharing or creating a training on Instagram for introverts, because I feel like visibility is so important. And it might be visibility for introverts. I think it'll be that rather than just Instagram for introverts, although it sounds better, doesn't it? But creating a training around that, because there are a lot of people that aren't showing up. And I am an introvert. So for me, Monday mornings, I love them because I get to come in and I get to create this podcast for you. And it feels like a soft re entry into visibility, right? Over the weekend, I'm doing my own thing. I'm offline for the most part. And then Monday, it's like I'm back at my desk. And it's like, okay, we need to switch on again. We need to be on. And so for me, the podcast feels like a very soft re entry, but it also highlights for me the resistance that I still have around showing up. Even me, even though I've been doing it for so many decades now, even though no one would consider that I was an introvert for the most part. I've spoken about it more over the last few years, so people are onto it. But, in the early days, people were always really shocked that I would call myself an introvert, but that's the reality, right? And so I feel it. I feel that after I've been going over the weekend and I'm not really online, and then Monday comes on, it's like, okay, cool, we've got to get back into content creation. And I'm doing less than I ever have, but I've still got to show up, right? I've still got to do face to camera stuff on Instagram. I want to do more live streams on Instagram. And so I have to frame things in a certain way. And there are certain strategies that I've been employing for years that, as I thought about this morning, actually, it was like, oh, all of these strategies that I've employed because I am an introvert. And it doesn't look like it online, but it's because I've been creating my content in this certain way. And so I'm going to start teaching that, because I want, you've got to be visible, right? That's a reality. And ads definitely help. Paid traffic will definitely help bring your reach at, will increase your reach and stuff like that. So that's always happening. But we do need to show up. Like, we do need to show up. And I've noticed in my own business that when I rely fully on ads, it definitely works, but it's better when there's content. And so if I'm going to be showing up, it's got to feel good. It's got to feel aligned. It's got to feel comfortable. I've got to not have to force myself to have to do it. And so the way that I do content is just, it feels easy for me, because I'm doing it in a way that doesn't require me to get really uncomfortable every time I have to do it. And so I'm going to do a whole training on that. So if you join FEMPIRE Builders, you'll have access to that. But I feel like visibility is a really important thing. And the reason I'm talking about that is in 2025, I am dialing it up. I've been very quiet on socials for at least a year now, I reckon. And it's time for me to start to really step forward again and lead with authority, because I have a lot of it. I've been in this game for a really long time, and I feel like, I go all in on the content, and then I'm like, I hate this, and then I move back out. I saw a post actually, like an Aries meme, and it was like, the vibe is rich but invisible. It's like, yes, I would love that. But that's not part of the deal, right? It's not part of our deal. We can't be invisible if we want to grow an online business. We definitely need to be part of the brand, and we need to be doing that with purpose and passion and conviction. And so for me, 2025 is like no holds barred. say what I think, say what I really, really, really think, go deeper on my messaging. And I think one of the reasons that I trip myself up with my content is because strategy is so valuable and so important to me. And it's what a lot of other coaches just don't have. And I'll be honest, your average spiritual business coach is not giving you fucking strategy. They're giving you, hope. They're giving you, you know, they're giving you the vibe of I can do this, which is great, right? There's definitely a place for that because not everybody needs strategy. So there is definitely a place for that. But I do get pissed when I have people that come to me and they're like, "Oh, I signed up for this program and it was just freaking smoke and mirrors and there was no strategy behind it." And I get like, I kind of have a little smirk on my face because it's like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, go back and look at every post that person has posted. There's no strategy in sight. There's not a strategy in sight. So why did you think that you were going to get this at the front and at the back you were going to get strategy? Because they said it in their marketing. Like, you've got to be smarter than that. And so for me, strategy feels really important. It feels like it's got to be at the forefront. But I also know that one of my greatest strengths is this ability to be able to get people to see for themselves how brilliant they are because I help them remove all the crap that's in the way. So I if I thought of myself in a visual kind of way, it would be like a sculptor, right? I get a client and they're a big lump of clay or whatever, stone, and there's so much potential in there and they can't see it. They can't see the potential, even though they know they're good at what they do. Like, they have a sense, right? They're confident. They're not coming in and saying, I don't think I'm good at what I do and, whatever, right? Like, so that is not the vibe. They're like, I know I'm good at what I do, but something's missing and I can't see what that thing is. And I can help them find what that thing is. And then we build a strategy around that. And then there's so much of the work that I do that is decluttering the mind and getting rid of all of the excess. And then, practicing mentoring in that mindset realm, like helping them to get their thoughts right and their focus right and their identity right so that they can go out there and implement the strategy, because that is so important. And I don't talk about the mindset stuff as much as I used to because everybody is talking about, if and this is a really basic version of it, but it's along the lines of, what is it? It's like, well, if you just think more positively, then you'll get a more positive result. And it's like, yeah, but if your strategy is shit, you will not. And even if by some stroke of luck, you think positive thoughts and you get the sale, but you don't feel confident in delivering a result, then you're going to make life really hard for yourself. It's going to be very stressful. You're not going to be feeling empowered. You're going to be feeling like you've got something to prove to your client. And we never want to be in that place, right? We want to be the person of authority because people need us to be. If you're coming to me, you need me to be confident and an authority in this space, right? In what I'm teaching, just like you need to be. And so for me, the strategy stuff really, really important, but I need to be talking about the mindset stuff more. And I'm just going to give myself full permission to do that because those things are important. And if we have a look at our intersections, right? So my intersection is like strategy and identity work, really, if I were to break it down into its bare bones. And when we look at the strategy side of it, it's like business coaching, it is marketing strategy, it is launch strategy, it's content strategy, it's all these different strategies and ways of creating the offers, selling the offers, building an audience and getting your audience to those offers. So there's so much strategy involved in all of that. And I love that. And it's equal parts, that and the identity shift that my clients need to make. Because the reality is, if you've got big dreams, big visions, big goals, you can't create that next level without first becoming the person who can achieve that level. And so that's what I'm talking about a lot of the time. And I've shied away from talking about that stuff because everybody's talking about that stuff and they're not talking about the strategy. And I guess part of me is like, well, I want people to know that I'm not just selling freaking unicorns and rainbows. I want people to know that there's strategy. But I'm also super aware that people, what do I want to say about that? I'm aware that people understand that they can go and get a strategy off a $27 micro offer or a YouTube video or something like that. So people they don't really have the same value around strategy that I do because they don't understand just how important the overall strategy is before we start to throw out tactics. And so I've got to do a better job of explaining why strategy is important and an overall strategy is important, and not just grabbing bits and pieces of strategy off the internet and cobbling them together and trying to, make that work for your business, because it just doesn't work for the most part. And it's stressful, it's hodgepodge, it's frantic. It's the opposite of what we want our marketing to be, which is simple, calm, and aligned, right? And impactful. And so, where was I going with that? Yeah. And so the other intersection is that identity work, helping my clients see who they are, what that next level version of themselves looks like, how that person would think, how that person would execute, how that person would show up, and then keep them in alignment with that next level version of themselves so that they can be that person and bring about the result that they're after. That's equally important, but I'm not giving it equal weight in my messaging. And that's going to change for me in 2025 because I feel like there is definitely an intersection there. So, what is your intersection? So, you might be a okay, so somebody that I'm working with is a human design business coach. So their intersection is business and human design. And so that's a really easy intersection, right? You might be a human design relationship expert. Then your intersection is going to be relationship coaching with human design, for example. If you're a weight loss coach and you spend a lot of time on nutrition and training, but you also spend an equal amount of time in mindset, then that's your intersection. And we've got to get really good at explaining what our intersections are and why they're important. And not everybody has the same intersection, right? And not everybody has the same way of bringing about their work through the intersection. That sounds a little bit confusing. So, for example, there are going to be other coaches out there that are strategic like me and mindset like me or identity work like me, but they're not going to do it like me. And they can't because they're not me. And you're going to have other people out there also who do have a similar thing from the outside looking in, but it's not the same as you because it can't be because they're not you. And so we've really got to lean into our authority in that space. So, anyway, today's podcast was a little bit of bits and pieces and all over the place. And I kind of wish I had come in and sat down and made some dot points before I hit the go button. I was just so eager to get in and talk with you. So, really, in summary, December is about tying bows on things that you want to finish up, complete, release, let go of, stop doing in 2025. You don't want to take those into 2025. It's also a month for really making sure that whatever we decide on for 2025 is a legitimate decision and we're cutting off any other options available to us. And then we get really clear about how we do this in the simplest possible way, in a way that feels aligned, in a way that feels impactful, and also being mindful with our messaging, coming into our messaging, what is my intersection and how am I going to be talking about this? in a way that is impactful and also allows people to see the full depth of what I bring to the table. So I think that's it. All right, that is it, my loves. I will see you either later this week if I decide to do a second podcast or next week. Take care. All the best.